Hello again, everyone. This one is fairly short, which will probably be a nice break from the length of some of my other ones. This I used Ranger by Tim Holtz alcohol inks in Teakwood and Coral are the only two colors I used on this one. And you can see I started out with the Teakwood there. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I did also use Pinata brass on this. That's I don't even consider that a color I choose because that is in 99.9% of the paintings that I do. So it's in everything. I love the shimmery shine that it gives. This was another example of a painting that didn't go the way that I had intended it to, but I wasn't completely unhappy with the results. I just mostly didn't like where it was on the round when I finished. And this, by the way, is an 8-inch NARA synthetic art paper round. NARA is great paper, by the way, if you all are looking for something, substrates to paint on and things. They do at least 3 different sizes of the circles, and they also have squares and rectangles, depending on what shape you're interested in painting on, but they have it in several different sizes. It's very, very similar to the graphics craft plastic. It's fairly similar in price as well, although the graphics craft plastic is a little bit cheaper. All right, so on this one, I decided to start out a little differently. You see there with a couple of lines laid down all and dried all the way rather than working one spot at a time. I just was trying to kind of block in what I had going on in my head that I'd wanted to do. Now, I'd wanted to leave my negative space almost all to the left there. You see where there's that kind of a big wedge there on the left-hand side, and that's where I wanted to have my negative space and have the rest of the painting coming, almost all the way to the very edge on the right-hand side. But if you looked at the painting at the beginning of the video, you'll see it did not quite turn out that way. So that was, the biggest thing that I was unhappy with this one. But I had struggled with this one in a spot or two and didn't want to keep on. I'm getting Maddie kisses. I didn't want to keep on adding to it. If I had kept on adding just alcohol, I would have lost a lot of the Pinata brass where it floats on top, where you get just sheer gold chunks showing on top of your painting. The more alcohol you use blending stuff like that in, the more those chunky parts, the floating parts where it just looks like gold, the more they're going to blend with your alcohol and ink, and you'll end up with, some pretty shimmery ink underneath, but you won't have as much of just the gold color sitting on top of it. And I had really wanted to keep the gold up on top, so that's something to keep in mind. And I didn't want to keep adding the brass to it, just brass and alcohol to blend with, because as you will already see, it started getting gummy. I was getting that thick, dark line in the middle because I already had too much metallic mixed in with my ink and my alcohol. So that's something you really need to be careful of. And you see, as I go back and look at this, I can tell you from looking at where I've got this right now that I was already going to have some issues with trying to keep that where I wanted it to be on the round. So I painted this one a few days ago. I just haven't had time to get to this part of the voiceover yet. So I can't really remember what I was thinking. I most likely, I realized as I was putting down that second spot of the coral that you see me working right now, I probably realized then that I was going to be in trouble as far as what I wanted to do. because it was coming over a little bit too far. Now, had I been a little smarter, there's things that I could have done to help push everything over to the right a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I can't remember as I went along if I even, how much I tried to push everything over, because I feel like I didn't. I don't know. So, all right, so you'll see I was putting down the alcohol right at the outer edge because I did want to get those soft wispy edges in this one. So I'll put the alcohol down right at the outer edge of the ink and blow it back over top of the ink first, and then blow it out, and then, push it back in, and come at it from the sides every now and then too. So you got to keep your ink kind of contained with your air, because you don't want it to just, drift off too much on the sides. So I always, come at it from side to side a little bit too. And that will also help you get some of those folds, the kind of lines that look like your ink has folded a little bit on the paper. If you make sure that you hit it from the sides every now and then as well. This one, I'd been working on bigger things for the most part lately. Most of them I don't have videos of, but had even done I think it was a 16 by 20, 16 by 20 inch one. And so when I switched back to this smaller round, it was a little tricky for me too. It's like I mentioned that when I was doing the challenge from Catherine Babcock with painting the light switch cover, have that tiny surface. I had never tried to work on anything that small before, so that was a definite challenge for me. All right, so I wanted to get the blend here. I wanted the two colors to blend together where they touched, but you got to be real careful to keep it to where you really don't want to work that area very much, because you don't want to have like teakwood on one side, coral on the other, and then one just entirely different color between them where they've blended. I try to keep in the wispy that blends, I try to keep like half of it teakwood and half of it coral. I don't even know how to explain that to you all, but I don't want to have one separate third color. I want the blending wisp where they join together to be to where you can actually see parts of each of those two colors in it. If that makes any sense whatsoever. I hope that it does. so, so it's a little tricky. You're doing that one because you kind of end up stuck with what you get real quickly, or else you'll have to overwork it. And there have been some paintings I've actually had to go back and add a drop of one of the colors on the side and redo the whole thing if I did get it overworked just a little too much. See, what I should have done in here is I should have kept pulling it out more all the way to the edge rather than stopping where I did. This is a case of I don't know what I was thinking right there, why I didn't go ahead and pull that on out to that right edge. Well, what's now the left edge. so, but that would have made it much more what I had wanted it to be to start with. I have, this is off topic of this painting, but you all let me know if you would be interested in seeing a video on some of the things that you can make if you're looking to do craft fairs and whatnot. There's some fairly simple things that you can make, like coasters. Now, I know a lot of you already paint on tiles and will resin over top of the tiles or whatever to sell as coasters. But I have done some lately that are wooden rounds, like buying the unfinished wooden circles, staining them, cutting circles out of a painting, and then attaching them to the rounds. And my next step is resining over top of them, which I have not done yet. They've been sitting there sort of curing to make sure everything was good and dry before I finish doing a little resin on top of them. But you can do that. You can also do bookmarkers if you want to spring for the heavyweight Yupo. That's what I used for bookmarkers. I was trying to think. There was something else. There's all kinds of different. I don't know what to call them. It's unfinished wood that you could use for a sign. Different shapes: ovals, octagons, hexagons. You know, super elongated rectangles, and things like that that you can find at arts and craft stores. I would recommend waiting till they go on sale because for a lot of them, I think they're a little pricey for what they are. But if you can find one or some of them somewhere when they've got them 40 or 50% off, excellent time to get some. Or go to a thrift shop and buy ugly signs that nobody will buy, that if as long as whatever it is can be painted over, if just paint it white over top of it with kills, then you can use a painting and glue it down on top of it. Just keep in mind that whatever you mount your paintings on does not have to be the same shape as your painting. You can cut out. And that's what I did with the coasters. I cut out and glued it on. So if y'all would like to see a video about maybe the coasters and the bookmarks, or just do the coasters one and the bookmarks one, or some of the other shapes, some of the other wooden things that I have to mount paintings on, let me know, because I'm going to be doing them anyway for me, so I don't mind at all to video the process for you all, because a lot of this, actually, all of it, I was trying to think, actually all of this, other than just how to mount a painting to a wooden cradle board, I've had to figure out on my own. Now, there may be videos out there on some of this, but I haven't seen them. I was not able to find them not the way that I started doing these. So if that's something that enough of you would like to see, I'll be happy to do a video or two on some of that for you. Excuse me. You all will probably be hearing a lot of that over the next few months, most likely. Things have started blooming out here already in southeastern Washington. And so my allergies are coming back. And I'm already noticing a lot of sinus issues and really dry, scratchy throat issues. So there's it's really pretty, or they are very pretty, but a few of our neighbors have flowering trees in their yards. And so it's windy today, and it's really, bleh, my nose feels like it's on fire, and my sinuses do. So, look at this. I made a hot mess while we were talking. This is a disaster right now. It looks horrible. Absolutely horrible. At this point, was getting, I do remember this, painting this, I was so frustrated. It really was just a hot mess. And the thought occurred to me that I needed to just quit and come back to it the next day, because I was getting so frustrated that I wasn't sure that I could do anything with it without making a bigger mess. That's something to keep in mind. When you're getting frustrated, Sometimes, most of the time, the best thing you can do is to walk away for a little while, even if it's 2 or 3 days. If you want to paint, get out a new piece of paper, lay the old one aside, and come back to it later. Because I have been able to salvage paintings that honestly you couldn't sell for a quarter at a garage sale because I laid it aside for quite a while. And that can make all the difference in the world. When you come back to it with a fresh perspective, you can see things that you were too frustrated to see before. Areas that, oh wow, I could actually fix that pretty easy. All I need to do is pull this out a little bit right here and it's going to look a whole lot better. Or, just wisp this edge over here or blend my paint right here. There's been a lot of paintings that I've done that with, that when I came back to them, it was literally 10 minutes and I had a painting that I loved. After spending an hour or two making a hot mess and had a disaster that I hated. So, keep that in mind. Just sometimes you got to walk away and take a break. But I didn't on this one. I kept on working on it. So, you can kind of see here in the middle what I was talking about with getting it kind of gummed up there. It's getting that really thick line in the middle. So I didn't want to do too much. You can see me looking at it, trying to think, what am I going to do now? So, but I think this is about where I left it. I just didn't, I was getting really nervous about doing much more to it at this point. So I only did just a little bit more. And pardon the gloves, by the way, if I don't think I mentioned that, but yeah, I had arthritis cream all over my hands and I wanted to paint, so I put gloves on because I didn't want to get it on the paper. So that was why you see me wearing gloves in this one when I would never wear them. All right, well, I don't really, I had a few little blobs out here at the edge and I was trying to mix it in so I didn't end up with a weird line stuck out there somewhere too. And was trying to blow some of this stuff back in towards the middle that had ended up too far out. So, all of this part is mostly just me trying to salvage this here because it just looks like a hot mess to me right now. But, sometimes all it takes is just moving a little bit of that ink around. This one I did, it ended up more condensed there in the middle than I wanted it to. But the only way I could have fixed that would have been to take a paper towel with some alcohol on it and wiped some of that thickness out of the middle, which I have done that before too. And then started spreading back out what I left on the paper. It can be a little tricky to do that and make it look good because I don't know, there's just something about it that's a little bit strange, but I didn't want to do that on this one, not unless I just absolutely had to. I think I should have used a little less of the coral. I would, try to put on something this size, I try to just use one drop of a color that shows up that good. But I'm not sure. I may have let it get away from me a little bit and ended up with more than one drop. But sometimes coral just really, really darkens up in there. And using a little too much brass as well is part of what hurt me on this one. So just trying to push back in some of those where I had a big dark, you can see that one just like one big darker section that had a lighter section on each side of it. It just didn't look right to me, so I was trying to change that a little bit. So I guess the moral of this one is just don't give up. Um, I should have gotten it ready, spliced it into this one. I need to show you all the video or the painting of my squashed cat that I had finally saved. That was an example of one that I came back to later and was able to actually turn it into a painting that I was happy with. So, all right, I'm leaving it here. All right, there you go. I probably should have stopped on this one a little bit sooner than I did. Although, at least I stopped when I did. I'll show you. I'm not real happy with the composition on this one. It's this down here. I wanted to come down a little bit more over here with something, but I had just reached the point of being afraid I was going to completely ruin the whole thing if I kept on messing with it. So I decided to stop on this one, and yeah, not too terribly unhappy with it. I do wish I could have gotten it a little closer to what I wanted, but that's okay. Got some good wispy edges here and there. Lots of the Pinata brass shimmering in there. I got a little too much. You all can see this is what happens when you have a little too much ink and metallic in there. It does build up and get a little gummy in there when you have too much of it. But that's okay. It's not bad. I'm pretty happy with it. Alright, well thank you all for watching another one. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I would love for you to become a subscriber and click that little bell if you want to be notified whenever I do post a new video. And I will be back with y'all real soon. Bye.